Welcome to the deep dive. Now, if you've flown into Hong Kong, you have certainly seen Ma Wan.
Oh, definitely.
For many, it's just that spectacular island backdrop to the Tsing Ma Bridge, that amazing piece of engineering you zoom past, heading to the airport.
Right. It's often just seen as a transit point, something functional. But if you actually stop and look closer, Ma Wan is, well, it's like a historical prism.
A prism? How so?
Our sources show this incredible timeline. We're talking over 4,000 years packed into this one small island. Everything from, Neolithic settlements right up to Qing Dynasty border stuff, and the really dramatic changes happening even now.
Wow, okay. That's a huge span for such a tiny place.
Yeah.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to kind of bypass the really obvious thing, the Noah's Ark theme park, which everyone knows.
Yeah, skip the arc for now.
And take you straight into the island's deeper history. We found 5 specific stories, really essential ones, and each connects to a physical spot, a kind of hidden gem you can still visit. It's a way to really get a feel for the island's memory.
Exactly. And we absolutely have to start at the beginning, like the very beginning, over 4,000 years ago, with the giants of the deep past.
Okay, story 1, prehistory. We're talking late Neolithic period here. And the key site is the Eastern Bay Tsai North site. This wasn't just some small dig, was it?
Oh, not at all. The rescue excavation they did back in '97, it was, well, profoundly important. It got named one of China's top 10 archaeological discoveries that year.
Wow.
And then later, one of the top 100 in the 21st century. That really puts Ma Wan, right at the center of research for the whole Lingyan prehistoric culture.
So what did they actually find that was so significant?
Okay, here's the really compelling bit. The C7 female skeleton, she was about 40 years old, they think, and her skull. It's the most complete prehistoric skull ever found in Hong Kong.
That's incredible. But hang on, Hong Kong's soil is usually so wet and acidic. How did it even survive? That seems almost impossible.
It really does. But it turns out it was this sort of accidental geographical miracle. Tests showed her remains were preserved because they were covered by this unusual specific layer of alkaline stuff in the soil.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, this chemical buffer just kind of stopped the natural decay. So researchers could study not just tools, but the actual person. They figured out she was probably around 163 centimeters tall, had this distinctive long, narrow skull.
Amazing detail. But I read the skull showed something else, too, something about their society.
Yes. This is fascinating. She was missing 2 upper front teeth. And it wasn't an injury. It looked deliberate.
Deliberate, like knocked out.
Exactly. It points directly to some kind of mandatory ritual, a tooth extraction custom, probably done around, say, age 16 or 17.
But 4?
The sources suggest it was a really solemn coming-of-age ceremony. They call it Qing Ding.
Yeah.
Basically marking entry into adulthood. And this shows, pretty complex social organization shared across the coastal communities in the Pearl River Delta, the Lingnan region. Real cultural continuity, thousands of years back.
So where can people connect with this today? Is there a physical link?
There is. The journey starts at the Ma Wan Park Heritage Museum. It's actually in an old converted study hall, which we'll get to. Inside, you can see the replica skull, the facial reconstructions. It connects you right back to that earliest Ma Wan life.
Okay, so that link, the Heritage Museum building itself, it has its own story, right? It wasn't always a museum.
No, absolutely not. And that brings us neatly to another thread, another layer, the sound of education. Story 4 for counting.
Right, the Fong Yuen Study Hall.
Yes, in Tin Hau Village. Rebuilt in the 1920s or 30s. It was a traditional private school, Sisuk, and it had this great nickname, Bok Bok Zai.
Bok Bok Zai. What does that mean?
It apparently comes from the sound, bok bok.
Mm-hmm.
The sound of the teacher using a fan or maybe a ruler to gently tap the student.
To keep them focused.
Exactly. Keep them awake, focused on their Confucian class. It's such a vivid picture of that simple but quite strict rural education system.
And now that same building holds the prehistoric finds.
Precisely. It's a fascinating cycle, isn't it? The building continues to be about transferring knowledge, but it's shifted from, Confucian texts to displaying Ma Wan Man replicas and Tang and Qing Dynasty kiln relics. It embodies that continuity.
Okay, so from prehistory and education, let's shift focus. What about the island's maritime past? The sea must have been central.
Absolutely central. Which brings us to story 3, the fisherman's anchor and the smell of shrimp paste.
Sounds evocative. This focuses on the Tanka fishing community, right?
Yes, and their spiritual heart. The Ma Wan Tin Hau Ancient Temple. It was built back in 1857, a Class 3 historic building now. Tin Hau is the goddess of the sea, so for fishermen, This temple was everything, their, spiritual anchor.
Makes sense.
And interestingly, this spiritual center was also an economic one. The open land right in front of the temple. It wasn't just empty space, it was crucial. It was used as a sun-drying yard for making shrimp paste hagao.
Ah, so worship and work side by side.
Exactly. That mix really defined the traditional village atmosphere. Religion, livelihood, all woven together.
So the hidden gem here is the temple itself.
Yes, definitely visit the preserved Tin Hau Temple. But then you should walk over to the old Ma Wan pier, the one that hasn't been renovated.
Why the old pier specifically?
Because when you stand there, on that same spot where generations of fishermen docked, and you look out, you get this incredible visual collision. Behind you is the temple, the past. But right in front, the massive modern Tsing Ma Bridge and Wan Bridge.
Ah, the contrast.
It perfectly captures the island's whole story in one view. Tradition, modern engineering, all right there. That massive temporal shift, you can feel it.
That sense of collision of different eras rubbing up against each other, it leads perfectly into our next story, doesn't it? The one about borders and, well, very specific measurement.
Ah, yes, the 7-foot line of sovereignty. Story number 2.
Sounds very precise. What's this about?
Okay, we need to jump forward to the late Qing Dynasty. Think 1860s, 1870s. Britain had taken control of Kowloon Peninsula. So the Qing government set up customs posts in places like Ma Wan, part of the larger Kowloon customs network.
Why? What was the goal?
Mostly to clamp down on rampant opium smuggling, which is a huge issue, and also to collect taxes, assert their administrative control right up to the new border. Ma Wan became a sort of imperial front line.
But then there was conflict.
Yes, in 1897, the Qing officials decided they needed to expand the customs operation, build some new facilities. But this immediately caused friction with the local Ma Wan villagers. It was a land dispute, basically.
Local versus imperial interests.
Exactly. And this little micro-conflict gives us this amazing historical nugget. After negotiations, the final agreement limited the width of a road they were building for the customs station to exactly 7 feet.
7 English feet.
7 feet. That's specific.
That's specific. And to make sure everyone stuck to it, they carved the measurement onto a stone tablet, a permanent legal marker.
That's incredible, a stone tablet defining this tiny strip of Qing authority. But here's the real kicker. The historical poetry, or maybe irony, is just, wow. This stone tablet, set up in 1897, is this symbol of Qing administrative reach. It became totally useless just 1 year later.
1 year? What happened?
1898. Britain leased the new territories. Suddenly, Ma Wan wasn't on the border anymore. The whole Kowloon customs network, including the Ma Wan post, shut down almost overnight.
So the stone tablet is still there?
It is the old Kowloon customs stone tablet. You can go see it. And it's this brilliant, slightly absurd marker. It represents the absolute maximum extent of Qing power right there, literally carved in stone, and then poof, gone, almost the moment it was established.
A really tangible piece of that rapid political change. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground: prehistory, education, maritime life, Qing borders. But we need to address the elephant in the room, perhaps. The most visible, maybe most controversial layer of Ma Wan's history. The modern transformation.
Right. This leads us to story 5. The migration and the colorful rebirth of the old village.
The catalyst was the Tsing Ma Bridge construction, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Ma Wan became essential for the new airport link. And the consequence was drastic. The entire population of the old villages had to be relocated. This happened between about 2003 and 2005. The original village area was just left empty, derelict, fenced off.
A sad but common story with huge infrastructure projects. What happened next? It wasn't just left to crumble, obviously.
No. Developers came in later with the Ma Wan 1868 project, and their approach was, well, primarily aesthetic.
How so?
They took the empty, vacated houses and painted the outside walls in these incredibly bright, vibrant colors, purposely making it look like, those famous, colorful villages in Italy like Cinque Terre.
Ah, the rainbow houses. I've seen pictures. They're very striking.
They are. Visually very appealing. It's designed for tourism, for Instagram moments. It's now a huge attraction, with murals explaining some history, too.
So the final hidden gem, or maybe not so hidden gem, is this rainbow house area. But you sound hesitant. Our sources raise some critique here, right? This idea of aesthetic substitution.
Yes, exactly. It's a key point of reflection. While it's commercially successful, looks great, keeps the building standing, the critique is that this approach essentially replaces the complex, authentic history, the decay, The feeling of the abandoned village, the actual lived experience with these sort of generic, internationalized happy colors.
So it fills a historical void, but maybe with something that isn't entirely true to the place, sacrificing the genuine atmosphere for a theme park feel.
That's the argument. It's accused of glossing over the difficult history of displacement with something bright and cheerful that appeals to tourists but doesn't necessarily honor the past accurately.
But what's the alternative? Just let the old village fall down completely? Is this kind of aesthetic preservation, even if imperfect, better than losing the physical structures altogether?
That really is the core tension, isn't it? The developers did keep the physical walls standing, which is something,
Hmm.
but they arguably stripped them of their original meaning and context. And this is where we could maybe loop back to the Fong Yuen Study Hall, the box eye.
Right, the old schoolhouse turned museum.
Yes. Think about that building. It represents a kind of authentic transfer of knowledge and meaning. From the sound of tapping, to the classics being taught, to now housing actual historical artifacts from the island's deep past. The building reflects its history, its function evolves, but respects the continuity.
Whereas the rainbow houses.
The rainbow houses reflect,
Yeah.
well, an aesthetic choice, an international trend, a commercial decision. When you put those two side by side, the study hall and the rainbow houses, you really see the tension playing out in Ma Wan today. It's commercial appeal versus maybe a more complex, potentially less comfortable historical truth.
It really does sound like Ma Wan is this incredible microcosm of Hong Kong history. All these layers packed in, 4,000 years of memory squeezed into this one small space.
Absolutely.
We've gone from an ancient skull preserved by alkaline soil telling us about rituals to a 7-foot stone marking the fragile edge of a fading empire.
Right up to this vibrant modern landscape that looks amazing, but, also kind of papers over the really quite recent and potentially painful story of community relocation.
So the challenge for Ma Wan, and maybe for visitors too, is finding that balance.
I think so. Balancing the undeniable commercial success and visual appeal with the need to remember the deeper, sometimes heavier, historical facts.
So a final thought for you, the listener. When you visit Ma Wan, maybe you stand there admiring the incredibly bright rainbow houses, enjoying that new energy. How do you also make space to remember the lost atmosphere, the community that was moved, the layers of history underneath the paint? How do we stop the bright colors from completely obscuring that rich, complex, and sometimes difficult past?
Finding that balance, acknowledging all the layers, maybe that's the real deep dive when you visit Ma Wan.